my friends. Welcome or welcome back. This is Margaret's English Camp. Last week, I presented you with a lesson with 8 sets of commonly confused words. They're confusing because they sound the same, but they're spelled differently. So I presented you with sentences to clarify how to use those words correctly. Well, this week is part two of commonly confused words. I'll be presenting you with a new lesson with some more commonly confused words that sound the same and spelled differently to ensure that you use them correctly when you're speaking and when you're writing. Are you ready to learn with Margaret? Let's get started. Hello and welcome back. I'm glad you can join me. Margaret's English Camp, striving to change lives around the globe, helping ESL and ELA students learn, improve, and become fluent in English. Next slide. Commonly confused words. Part two. How do I know the difference? Let's find out. Next slide. Our learning objective is to identify and understand commonly confused words, using them in sentences to help you understand which word to use and how to use it to know the difference. Next slide. Our first set of words: stationary versus stationery. Next slide. Stationery. Example: the horrific accident ahead caused the traffic to become completely stationary, completely still. Because of the accident, all the traffic had to be stopped and stationary in one position, which is stopped. Stationary. Stationery. The letter will look more professional if you write it on a beautiful company stationery. Stationery is paper, the company's letterhead. Stationery, what you write on. Next slide. Then versus then. I find these two words very confusing to a lot of people, so we're going to understand how to use them. Next slide. Van. My boyfriend's car is much faster than mine's. Than. Comparison between two things or more than. So making a comparison. Next slide. Then I am going shopping at the grocery store. Then I will go shopping at the mall. Then my next step or your next step. I'm going to the grocery store first, then I'm going to the shopping mall. So it means the next thing you're going to do. Next slide. Lead versus lead, or the first word can also be pronounced as lead. Let's find out how to use these confusing words. Next slide. The first one is lead as a noun. Oh no, the lead in my mechanical pencil is out. When you're using lead as a noun, it rhymes with bed. Lead, mechanical pencil, rhymes with bed. Next slide. This word can also be a verb. Lead, it rhymes with feed. Our volleyball team captain will lead us to a championship. Lead, to help people get to a specific place in an event or in any circumstance. Someone is leading you. Lead rhymes with feed. The next word is also pronounced as led. It's a verb. It rhymes with bed. Led, bed. Our volleyball team led us to the state championships. Led, in the act of preparing someone to get to a certain place or to reach a certain um, height or destination in a situation or event. Led, leadership. Next slide. Breath versus breathe. Which one? How do I use it? Let's find out. Breath. To have fresh breath, you should always brush your teeth. To have fresh breath, what comes out of your mouth, you should always brush your teeth. Breath. Next slide. Breathe. It's so hard to breathe when it's so hot and humid outside. Breathe. The act you're performing to stay alive. Breathe. Next slide. Aloud versus allowed. Very confusing. Next slide. We're going to find out how to use them. Aloud. To help improve reading skills, you should read aloud when you practice. You should read so you can hear yourself out loud. Aloud. Next slide. Aloud. Although she missed 2 dance rehearsals, she was allowed to dance in the show. Allowed. She was given permission to participate in the show. Although she missed rehearsals, she was still given permission to participate in the show. Allowed. Next slide. Whose versus whose? This one is very confusing. Let's find out how to use these words. Next slide. Whose? Amy didn't know whose jacket it was, so she put it in the lost and found box. Whose? Ownership. Amy didn't know what person the jacket belonged to, so she put it in the lost and found. Whose? A person ownership. Next slide. Whose? Do you know who's going to be in the upcoming sci-fi movie? This whose is a contraction meaning 2 words. Who is, or it also can mean who was. So if you can't insert who is into the sentence or who was into the sentence, you're not using the right whose. So in this example, do you know we're going to replace whose with who is? Who is going to be in the upcoming sci-fi movie? Do you know who is going to be in the upcoming sci-fi movie? So that is the correct whose. Whose again is a contraction meaning who is or who was. Next slide. Lie versus lay. Again, I find these two words very confusing to a lot of people. Let's find out how to use them. The first example, lie is a verb, but it can be used in two different ways, meaning two different things. The first example, my friend hurt her foot, so she has to lie on the bed with her feet up for a week. Lie, to physically place yourself in a position to lie flat on a bed or wherever, but you're physically placing your body in a position. Next one, number two, Judy came home at 12 midnight, so she told her mother a lie about her whereabouts. In example two, Judy is not being truthful, so she told something that was not truthful to her mother about where she was because her mother was going to be upset. She came in at 12 midnight, so she had to tell a lie to get off the hook. Lie. Next slide. Lay. The little girl wants to lay a wreath at the military base to honor her fallen father. Lay, to physically place something somewhere. Lay. Next slide. Accident versus incident. These words don't sound the same, but they're very confusing because they're close, and a lot of people get them confused. Next slide. Accident. Last night, there was a horrible car accident at the street corner. Two people were critically injured. Note, accident will involve physical and or property damage. Accident. Next slide. Incident. Last week, there was an incident where two kids almost got hit by a car as they crossed the street. Incident. There's no physical damage. It almost happened, but it didn't. So no one was hurt. So it was an incident. Next slide. This concludes all our commonly confused words for this lesson. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you understand better how to use these words when you speak and when you're writing. Next slide. About the teacher, of course, that is me, Margaret B. Levick. I have a master's degree in education, a bachelor's degree in business, and an associate's degree in computer science. You can contact me via three ways. You can contact me via my email address at margaretsenglishcamp@gmail.com, or Skype if you would like to have a one-on-one lesson with me, or you can leave me a message down below in the comment section. Please let me know how you love this lesson, if it helped you, and if you would like to see more lessons about this type of examples, commonly confused words. Next slide. Weekly video uploads, 1 or 2 times a week. Next slide. Yay. My lessons includes conversational practice, beginner to advanced, reading, phonics, pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, business English, IELTS exam preparation. Next slide. Follow me on my social media at margaret.levick, Instagram at ESLTeacher64, and Twitter at mlevick2664. Next slide. If you enjoyed this lesson and you found it very helpful for you today, please give me a thumbs up, a like. This will help me get the videos I create out to more people to help them improve in their English speaking also. Comment down below, leave me your thoughts and your suggestions, and please consider subscribing to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to click that notification bell so you will know when I upload a new video every week. Next slide. We have concluded our lesson of commonly confused words, part 2. It is now time to say goodbye. See you next time. Bye bye.